Welcome to The Explainer. This is where we break down big, influential ideas into guides that you can actually use in your everyday life. Yeah, does that feel familiar? That feeling that your mind just has this constant chatter going that you can't shut off? Well, you are definitely not alone. So today we're going to dive deep into Eckhart Tolle's amazing book, The Power of Now, to find that switch and figure out how we can apply its lessons to, really transform our day-to-day lives. All right, so here's our game plan. First up, we're going to figure out what the problem even is, what Tolle calls the tyranny of the mind. Then we'll get into the solution, which is all about accessing the power of now. From there, we'll jump into the really practical how-to stuff. And finally, we'll see how all of this can help us deal with things like pain and fear. Sound good? Let's go. Okay, section 1. So before we can even talk about a solution, we have to get real about the problem, right? We need to understand where all this unease and anxiety comes from. And according to Tolle, the source is, well, it's right between our ears.
And this quote from Tolle just nails it. The problem isn't the thinking itself. The core problem is that we've become completely unconsciously identified with that constant stream of thoughts. It's like we've mistaken the tool, the mind, for who we actually are. And that tool has completely taken over the show.
He calls this compulsive thinking an addiction. And this addiction creates a false, mind-made self, the ego. Think of the ego as this little character in your head that is never ever satisfied. It's constantly digging through the past to define itself, or it's obsessing about the future to find some kind of salvation. And in all that noise, it completely misses the only thing that's actually real, which is right now.
And this is such a critical distinction to make. On one side, you've got the ego. It's that whole jumble of memories, plans, and judgments. But then there's the other side, the watcher. That conscious, still presence that is simply aware of all that mental noise. That quiet inner space, that's your true nature. That's the real you.
Okay, so if this overactive mind, this ego, is the problem, then what's the solution? How do we fix it? Well, the good news is, it's not about trying to get a new brain or anything like that. It's about tapping into a power that, believe it or not, we all already have.
And here it is. The key to liberation is the present moment. The solution is almost shockingly simple. It's all about shifting your focus, taking your attention away from what happened yesterday or what might happen tomorrow, and just anchoring it right here, right now. Because the now is the only place you can ever be free from that tyranny of the mind. We hear the word enlightenment and think it's some kind of superhuman achievement, but Tolle brings it right down to earth. He uses the Buddha's definition. It's simply the end of suffering. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about returning to your natural state, that feeling of just being. And you can only find that, you guessed it, in the now.
I love this quote because it's not just a nice idea to think about. It's a direct instruction. The goal is to flip the script. See, most of us live our lives lost in time, past and future, and we only pay these tiny little visits to the present moment. Tolle says we have to reverse that. We need to make the now our primary home and only dip into the past and future when it's actually practical and necessary. All right, section 3. I know what you're probably thinking. This all sounds great, but how? How do I actually do this? Well, that's what this section is all about. Let's get into the practical, step-by-step techniques you can start using today. Right now, even. So, the most powerful practice, the real game changer, is what Tolle calls watching the thinker. Step 1. Just listen to that voice in your head. Step 2, don't judge it. Just be the witnessing presence. As you do this, you start to realize, wait a minute, there's the thought, and then there's me watching the thought. And then you'll start to notice these little gaps between thoughts. In those gaps, you'll feel this incredible stillness and peace. And that right there is the beginning of real freedom. And the best part is, you don't need a special cushion or a quiet room. You can practice this anywhere. It's about turning totally mundane, everyday things into a mindfulness exercise. So when you're washing your hands, instead of mentally running through your to-do list, just be there. Feel the temperature of the water, smell the soak. When you're walking to your car, notice each step. These simple acts of giving your full attention pull you right out of your head and into the present moment. Okay, last section. So what's the payoff? What happens when we actually start doing this stuff consistently? Well, the benefits are huge. We're going to look at how being present can help us dissolve two of the heaviest things we carry around, the pain of our past and the fear of our future. Tolle has this really powerful concept called the pain body. You can think of it like a dark cloud of old, accumulated emotional pain that lives inside of us. It's all the unresolved stuff from our past.
Most of the time, it might just be sitting there, dormant, but when something triggers it, whoosh, it wakes up, takes you over, and suddenly you're seeing the entire world through this lens of old pain. And here's the thing you have to understand. The pain body feeds on more pain. It thrives on your unconscious identification with it. But it has a weakness. It absolutely cannot survive the light of your conscious presence. When you stay present, when you become the watcher of that pain instead of becoming the pain itself, you literally cut off its food supply. It just dissolves in the now.
So what about fear? This is such a brilliant insight. Tolle says that all psychological fear, we're talking anxiety, worry, dread, it's never about what's actually happening right now. It's always about something that might happen in the future. It's this anxiety gap between the here and now and some future that only exists in your head. When you bring yourself back to this moment, that gap closes because you can always handle what's happening now. What you can't handle is a worst-case scenario that your mind just made up.
So really, what this all comes down to is letting go. Tolle says the secret of life is to die before you die. And what he means is letting that false mind-made self, the ego with all its stories and fears, letting that die so you can discover what's left, which is the timeless, real, indestructible you. So the final question, the one to really sit with, is what are you ready to let go of?
Share your thoughts on the comments below. Hit the subscribe button for more videos in the channel.